My name's Jake Torres. I'm 31, single, and broke. Real broke. Like 2 paychecks away from selling my blood for money. This past year has been nothing but close calls, almost got a real job, almost paid rent on time, almost fixed my truck so it stops leaking oil everywhere. Got fired from my warehouse job last March. Since then I've been doing whatever work I can find. Food delivery, hauling junk, buying old furniture and selling it, anything that pays cash at the end of the week. That's how I started buying storage units. It's simple: buy a unit, look through the junk, sell what you can. Sometimes you find moldy couches and old tax papers. Sometimes you find a good guitar, or old coins worth money, or electronics people forgot about. You take a chance, break open the lock, and hope there's something worth more than the $300 you just spent. It's like gambling, but dustier and with no bright lights. I started with the cheap units. The ones nobody wanted. The ones marked, "No one claimed this for 7+ years," or "Owner died, no family." Real bottom-of-the-barrel stuff. But sometimes those forgotten boxes turn up something good. Last Tuesday, I went to an auction in Bakerstown. Industrial part of town. Old place tucked behind a closed Foot Locker shoe store and a chain-link fence that looked like it hadn't been painted since the 1990s. Only 5 units for sale, and most of the usual buyers were looking at one full of furniture that might be worth good money. But I saw one off to the side, unit number 47. No photos, no description. Just, not opened since 2012. Can't find the owner. Don't know what's inside. It had a red tag tied to the lock, but nobody else even looked at it. The guy running the auction said he'd include it at the end, but made no promises about what was inside. Could be empty. Could be full of rat droppings. Could be black mold. I won it for $120. Nobody else wanted it. The lock was thick brass, different from the cheap ones you usually see. Almost military looking. The guy running the place had to come over with bolt cutters, complaining about how the last person to rent it paid cash and never answered his phone. When the door finally rolled up, I got hit with that old, stale air smell. Dust. Rust. And something else, a weird, cold metal smell, like old blood on steel. It wasn't empty. More important, it wasn't messy. Most units look like someone threw a bomb into a garage sale. This one was neat. Everything put in careful rows. 2 plastic boxes full of books, stacked and labeled. A tall wardrobe pushed against the back wall. And a workbench, a real, full-sized workbench, covered in tools I'd never seen before. Not your normal Home Depot tools either. No hammers. No drills. There were blades. Hooks. Metal tools with weird markings carved into them. Things that looked custom-made for jobs I didn't want to think about. I stepped inside, feeling scared right away. The air felt heavy, like right before a bad storm. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures, just in case I needed proof later. That's when I saw the wardrobe wasn't just pushed against the wall. It was bolted to the floor. Not just screwed down, welded. Like someone really didn't want it moved. I walked over and opened it. Empty. But the floor looked wrong. Thicker than it should be. I knocked on it with my hand. Hollow. I felt around the edge and found a tiny groove. A hidden switch. Click. A square piece of the floor popped up a little. I grabbed the edge and lifted. Under the fake bottom, a ladder. Going down into darkness. And I swear I felt cold air coming up from below, like the unit was breathing out. I stood there for a full minute, phone light pointed down the hole. Concrete walls. The light reached maybe 20 feet before it disappeared into black. No bottom I could see. No smell, no sound. Just that steady flow of cold air, dry and old, like it hadn't been touched in years. I should have walked away. Should have locked it up and called it a loss. But I'd paid for this unit. Which meant whatever was down there belonged to me now. I grabbed a wrench from the workbench, stuck it in my jacket pocket, just in case, and started climbing down. The metal rungs creaked but held. 10 feet. 15. 20. The temperature dropped with every step until I was sweating from nerves but shivering from the cold. My boots hit concrete and I froze, letting the light sweep the room. Bunker. Square-shaped. No windows, no other doors. Just concrete walls lined with industrial shelving and steel cases. A single bulb hung from the ceiling by a frayed wire, long dead. The air smelled off. Like leather, dust, and something faintly electric. To my left, a row of black plastic bins. Each labeled in faded white marker. Hunter Kit 3, Eastern Variants. Photos, verified entities, 1972 to 2004. Salt/silver/bone. To my right, maps. Dozens of them. Folded, pinned, some spread across a drafting table. Most had red markers, handwritten notes, strange coordinates. A few had dark stains, brownish red that looked suspiciously like dried blood. I opened one of the kits with shaking hands. Inside, wooden stakes, carved and old. A revolver with strange engravings along the barrel. Vials of liquid, blue, amber, green, each labeled in shorthand. And a notebook with half the pages torn out. The remaining pages. Field notes. Dozens of entries, all in jagged handwriting. June 18, 1996, Park City, Utah. Type 2 Mimic. Female presenting. Notes, took over local librarian's life. Didn't feed for months. Finally cracked and drained a family of 4. Burned out the nest. No survivors. No backup. Still hearing it sometimes. In dreams. Not sure it's dead. I dropped the notebook and backed away instinctively. This was real. This was all real. I moved to the back wall where a massive corkboard had been bolted in place. Red strings ran between Polaroids, newspaper clippings, and hand-scribbled notes. It looked like stepping into the middle of a decades-long investigation. The photos stopped me cold. Each one was labeled with a name, age, and location. At first glance, they looked normal, people at parks, bars, schools, walking down suburban streets. But the longer I stared, the more wrong they became. One man's shadow didn't match his pose. One girl had solid black pupils. Another guy cast no reflection in the window behind him. And then there was the last photo. Tucked in the bottom corner, half covered by a faded receipt. No name. No age. No location. Just a black and white picture of a man standing in front of what looked like a motel room, number 9A. He wore a long coat, hands in his pockets, looking straight at the camera. His face was clear, but the moment you tried to focus on it, your eyes wanted to slide away. I blinked. Looked again. His smile was too wide. Not cartoonish, just wrong. His mouth didn't match the rest of his face. And the more I stared, the more certain I became that the background was moving slightly, like heat waves. I pulled it from the board with shaking hands. On the back, in smudged pencil, "Do not engage. Follow-up required. See file, 9A. I looked around quickly. No filing cabinets I could see. Just more boxes and bins. Finally, I spotted a trunk tucked behind a tarp and rusted folding chair. Heavy thing. Inside, rows of manila folders, marked with codes and dates. I dug until I found 9A. The file was thin but scary. First page was a map, Arizona. A motel circled in blue ink. Room 9A. Caption, same subject. Same face. 1983, 1996. 2009, 2022, unconfirmed. Moving west. The next pages were surveillance photos. Blurry zooms of the same men in different places, different clothes. Always alone. Always looking toward the camera. Never aging a day. Then came the field notes. Typed, cold. Encounter outside Motel 9A, Phoenix outskirts. Male subject observed entering and exiting room without ever using a key. Same walk, same posture, same facial structure as 1996 incident. Confirmed by 2 prior agents. 2 locals reported missing. Cell phones pinged near motel before going dark. Blood trace found in drain behind Unit 9A. DNA unclear. Local police don't know. We left before they could question. No way to stop target. Tracked him west. Maybe using train system. Sleeps rarely. Eyes glow under special camera. The file ended with a security cam screenshot from a Colorado train station. Same man. Same coat. Same face. Looking up at the camera with faintly glowing eyes. My skin went ice cold. There were at least 20 other files like this in the trunk. I looked through a few. Different creatures. Different sightings. Some local, Bakerstown, Santa Mesa, Millfield. One mentioned, feral changelings, near an I-15 rest stop. Another was labeled Chatterbox and marked with a blood stain inside the folder. But this 9A thing wasn't just another random sighting. Whoever ran this operation had been tracking him for decades. And then they just stopped. No closure. No success. No final report. Just one last sighting 3 years ago, and then nothing. I stood there holding that photo, and suddenly the bunker felt smaller. Like the walls had crept closer while I was reading. My phone buzzed, low battery warning. I didn't want to be down here anymore. I carefully replaced the file. Relocked the trunk. Took one last look at the corkboard. That photo. I shouldn't have removed it. I pinned it back exactly where it had been. The man in the coat stared back. Same crooked smile. Same cold eyes. Same door behind him, room 6B. Same gut feeling that maybe, somehow, he knew I was looking at him. I backed toward the ladder without turning around, clicked off my light, and climbed up into the storage unit without looking down. I shut everything. Rolled the door. Locked it. Even looped the old red tag back through the latch, like that would somehow seal everything back inside. The whole drive home, my hands wouldn't stop clenching the wheel. Back at my apartment, I dropped my keys, kicked off my boots, and collapsed onto the futon. No lights, no dinner. Just silence and that lingering cold that seemed to cling to my clothes. It was too much. The tools. The files. The wall of faces. The man in that photo, standing in front of the motel door like he knew something I didn't. Had to be a prank, right? Some elaborate setup. Like those immersive escape rooms for horror fans. But that didn't explain the age of the paper. Or the dust. Or the photo timestamp from 1983 printed on the back of that motel picture. I didn't mean to fall asleep. But somewhere after the second hour of lying there with my heart hammering, exhaustion won. And I dreamed. Me, standing in the storage unit with the door open, looking down into that hole. Only now the ladder stretched impossibly long, vanishing into pitch black. Something was moving down there, just out of sight. Breathing. I woke up drenched in sweat. Late afternoon sun bleeding through the blinds. For several minutes, I just lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it had all been some stress-induced hallucination. Then I sat up, grabbed my backpack, and repacked it: flashlight, wrench, power bank, granola bar, bottled water. Added gloves this time. I told myself I just wanted one more look. To see it again in daylight. Maybe take proper video evidence. But I knew the truth. I wasn't done with it, and it wasn't done with me. By the time I got back to the storage lot, the sun was dipping behind the strip mall across the street. I parked around the side, out of sight from the road. Unit 83 was exactly as I'd left it. Locked. Silent. Waiting. I had the key now. I opened the latch and pulled up the door, half expecting everything to be gone. The tools, the wardrobe, that metallic smell. Like maybe my brain had invented it all. But it was there. Every detail exactly as before. The same heavy silence hit me the second I stepped inside. I pulled the door down behind me and clicked on the flashlight. Walked straight to the wardrobe, opened the hidden panel, and stared down into the dark. This time I moved slower. Not from fear, I wanted to see every detail clearly. I wanted to understand what I'd stumbled into. When my boots hit concrete again, I turned in a full circle, letting the flashlight sweep the space methodically. Same bunker. Same bins and crates. Same map table. Same corkboard. But this time, I didn't go for the files first. I walked directly to the photo board. The man in front of Motel 6B. His wool coat. His polished shoes. His hands in his pockets. But there was something in his posture I hadn't noticed before, not relaxed at all. Ready. Like he'd just heard something behind the camera. I pinned it back exactly where it belonged and turned toward the metal shelving along the far wall. Most of it held gear I still didn't understand. Kits. Boxes labeled in codes. But one shelf caught my attention, sealed cases filled with old camcorders, DV tapes, and thick black cords. I opened one of the tapes. The label read, 6B, Daylight, Stationary Cam, 2009. No way to play it here. But there were 6 more tapes with the same code. Some older. Some marked, NO Audio or Do Not Watch Alone. I moved to another bin labeled, Entity Logs, Classified, Primary Threats. Inside, spiral notebooks, half-filled legal pads, printed email threads with most lines blacked out. I flipped through until something made me freeze. A page near the back of one legal pad. Hand-sketched, almost like a courtroom artist's drawing. The man from the photo. But now he had features. Wrong ones. Longer fingers. The mouth opened impossibly wide, revealing rows of small, uniform teeth like a shark's. His eyes were gone, just dark hollows, smudged like the ink had been rubbed after drawing. Beneath it, written in pencil, smile does not move. Only grows. I set the pad down carefully and turned to the final shelf. Just a single locked black box with a note on top, if found, do not act alone. See logbook Red A. Red A wasn't anywhere I could see. No shelf label. No matching box. I stepped back and scanned everything again, slower this time. Following edges, seams, shadows. There, in the far corner. Past the ammo crates, past a stack of burlap sacks labeled Bone Dust, Clean, there was a filing cabinet. Short one, wedged against the wall under an old coat rack, like someone had tried to hide it behind junk. The bottom drawer was dented and locked. But the top was already slightly open. I knelt and tugged it. Inside, just one thing. A red journal. Leather cover, curled at the edges. No title. Just a burn mark near the corner that looked like a branded letter. The light caught it just enough for me to make out, Red A. I sat on the concrete floor and opened it carefully. The handwriting was tight, mechanical. No wasted loops or flourishes. This wasn't someone venting feelings. This was documentation. A ledger. The first half was creature profiles. Names. Types. Weaknesses. Classifications. Most I didn't recognize. Around the halfway point, a new heading in darker ink, 6B, code, blackout. I turned the page, heart pounding. First sighting verified 1952, Missouri. Confirmed visual match to 1967, 1981, 2009. Same face, same clothing, no signs of age. Attempts to follow unsuccessful. Entity enters room 6B. Door closes. Exit never witnessed. Location tags followed, all rural. All isolated. All motels with identical floor layouts. Same numbered door. Feeds discreetly. Always leaves town before full investigation. Evidence suggests subject does not kill indiscriminately. Targets chosen. Patterns unclear. Then a list of names. Cities. Victims. All disappeared. Silver ineffective. Religious symbols ineffective. Subject maintains human appearance in daylight. Nighttime behavior unknown. No footage confirmed. Another page. Another sketch. This time it was crude. Pencil on paper. The figure in the coat, except the coat was drawn open. Underneath wasn't flesh. It was segmented. Rib-like. The chest was split open like insect wings folding out from the center. Dozens of thin, clawed arms extended from the cavity. The caption beneath chilled me. Final form observed. Hunter R. Whitlock, last seen 2009, Georgia. Presumed dead. This was the last entry. Tracked to roadside motel. Room 6B. Confirmed subject still active. No exit observed. Waited 9 hours. Approached at 2:31 a.m. Knocked. Door opened. He was inside. Awake. Standing. Like he expected me. The writing deteriorated near the bottom. Slanted, rushed. I fired 3 shots into the chest. Point blank. Center mass. Subject did not fall. He smiled. Said my name. The final sentence wasn't written. It was carved. Pressed so hard into the paper the page beneath had nearly torn. I never told him my name. That was it. Nothing more. I closed the journal and sat in complete silence for what felt like an hour. My hands had gone numb, and the concrete beneath me felt colder than before. No dramatic twist. No final answer. Just a dead end. And one terrifying truth: whoever this monster hunter was, he'd failed. The thing he was tracking. Still out there. I packed the Red A journal, snapped photos of the corkboard, and climbed back up. When I reached the storage unit, I sealed the false bottom and locked everything back in place. The air felt thicker now. Like it knew what I'd seen. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with the journal spread open, scribbling notes on a yellow legal pad. The names in the file were mostly first names only. Some just locations and ages. But they were dated, 1981. Next night, same routine. Light in 6B came on, then off. Nothing else. But on the third night after she arrived, she came out to smoke around 1:45 a.m. leaned on the railing, staring into the woods behind the building. She looked tense. Drained. Like she hadn't been sleeping well. I took a photo of her license plate. Ran it through a public records database, $15 well spent. Kelsey Romero. 23. From Phoenix. No criminal record. Nothing unusual. Just normal. Which meant she fit the profile perfectly. The others in the Red A journal were never bad people. Just unlucky. I drove back to my motel, heart hammering. Sat in the dark staring at the file. Then I did the one thing I'd told myself I wouldn't do. I drove to her motel. Parked. Got out. Walked up to her room and knocked. The door cracked open. She looked through the chain lock, cautious. Yeah. Sorry, I said quickly. My name's Ryan. I know this sounds insane, but I need 2 minutes. If it sounds crazy, I'll leave. She stood there calculating whether to slam the door or scream. I'm not a creep, I added. I swear. I've been researching this place. Room 6B. That did it. Her face twitched, recognition, maybe fear. The door opened another inch. What about 6B? I pulled out the photo. That faded black and white Polaroid. The man in the long coat, standing in front of her exact room number. I found this in a locked file, I said. It was taken here. Same room. Same building. There's a note that says not to engage. This guy shows up every 13 years. She looked at the photo. I could see the moment it landed, the way her posture stiffened. She glanced back inside, then quickly back at me. Without warning, the hallway light above us buzzed hard and died. The fixture gave one final flicker and went out, leaving a faint electrical hum in the silence. Through her doorway, I could see her bedside lamp flicker, dim, then return to normal. She sucked in a breath. I didn't say anything. Just stood there and let it settle. After a second, she stepped outside and closed the door behind her. You've got 1 minute, she said. Start talking. We sat on the low curb outside her room. She kept her arms folded, Like she couldn't decide whether to punch me or run. I laid the photo flat between us on the concrete. Your room is part of something that goes back decades, I said. I found a bunker, literally a hidden bunker, under a storage unit I bought. It belonged to someone who tracked things. Creatures. This guy was the last one he wrote about. She said nothing. Just stared at the Polaroid. The man's wide smile. The way the trees behind him seemed to ripple slightly, even in still print. There were files, I continued. Maps. Case notes. Every 13 years, someone dies in or near room 6B. Always the same man. They called him 6B. She finally looked up. And you're what? Some kind of ghost hunter now. No, I said honestly. I'm just a guy who bought a storage unit he shouldn't have. But I believe what I saw. And you're in danger. She looked away, chewing her cheek. The lamp inside her room flickered again. I heard scratching, she said suddenly. Last night. Behind the wall. Thought it was rats. But the door to 6B, it's sealed. No way anything could get in there. There were scratches mentioned in the old reports, I said carefully. Same location. She didn't speak for a moment. Then, I should just leave. I nodded. Probably smart. She stared at the photo again. That faded Polaroid, the men in front of room 6B, coat hanging past his knees, that too wide smile. You really think this guy's coming back? She asked. I didn't answer right away. I don't think he ever left. The lamp behind her flickered again, one hard pulse like a dying heartbeat, then steadied. We both looked at the door to 6B. Still sealed. Still dark. But I could feel it. Like the hallway itself leaned in when she said the words. I need to pack, she muttered. I'm not staying another night. She stood and moved toward her door. I followed. Can I help? I asked. At least until you're in your car. She hesitated, hand on the doorknob. Still thinking. Still cautious. Finally, yeah. Fine. Just, don't touch anything. Inside, the room looked normal. Lived in. Clothes in a half-open suitcase. Makeup bag on the sink. TV remote wedged between bedspread and a wrinkled hoodie. But something felt wrong. She moved quickly, gathering shirts, charger, toiletries, while I stood by the door, eyes fixed on the connecting wall to 6B. It was quiet. Too quiet. Then something tapped once. Faint. Like a fingernail brushing wood. She froze. Stopped halfway through folding a jacket. The noise didn't repeat. You heard that, right? She whispered. I nodded. She zipped the suitcase. That's it. I'm out. We were halfway to the door when the TV behind us turned on. No sound. Just a black screen with faint static bars drifting like water damage. A shape formed for a second, maybe a figure, then vanished. I unplugged it. The screen stayed on 1 second longer than it should have. She looked at me. I'm never sleeping here again. We stepped outside. She locked the door with shaking hands and turned to me. I'm gonna grab coffee, drive until sunrise, maybe call my brother. I nodded, but the hairs on my neck were rising. There was a man standing at the far end of the parking lot. Still. Facing us. He hadn't been there before. Don't look, I said quietly. Just get in the car. She turned anyway. Froze. He was gone. No footsteps. No motion. Just vanished behind the vending machines. She unlocked the driver door. I stepped back. She paused. What about you? I'll be fine. She looked like she wanted to say more, but instead got in, slammed the door, and turned the key. The engine wouldn't start. First try, nothing. Second, sputter. Third. The headlights flickered once. Then off. The man was back. Closer now. Halfway across the lot. And not walking. Gliding. Just a slow, steady drift toward us. The parking lot lights began shutting off one by one. Pop, 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 each bulb fizzed out in perfect rhythm, heading straight for us like dominoes falling. With every light that died, the darkness got thicker, not just darker, but heavier. Like shadows crawling inward. Kelsey gasped. Car. Now. We ran. I dropped the photo in the gravel, didn't matter anymore. She yanked open the driver door and threw herself inside. I was right behind her, sliding into the passenger seat as she jammed the key into the ignition. Click. Nothing. She swore and tried again. Click. Nothing. Outside, the last light above her door sputtered and died in a shower of glass. Now it was just us. The car. The dark. And him. I looked up. He was 10 feet away. His face pointed right at us, though his head never seemed to move. His eyes didn't blink. And that smile, that never changed. That wrong, patient, too wide smile that said he had all the time in the world. Kelsey. I know, she snapped, twisting the key again. The dashboard lights flickered weakly. A pulse. Then dead. I was breathing too fast. My chest burned. The cold inside the car was worse than outside, like the heater had reversed. Then I remembered. The hook. The silver hook with carved symbols from the bunker. I didn't know what it did or if it would work. But it had been packed with salt, silver, and bone for a reason. I yanked it from my jacket, flicking the blade open. It wasn't sharp in the usual way, it looked ceremonial. Used, not crafted. The etchings were worn smooth from blood or time or both. Kelsey saw it and flinched. What the hell is that? I didn't answer. Just opened the door and got out. He was 5 feet away. Still not moving fast. Just steady. Intent. Following some invisible line nobody else could see. I raised the hook. His head tilted, just slightly. The smile stayed. But his glide stopped. Small pause. Barely noticeable. But it was enough. I stepped forward, holding the thing out like a crucifix. My hand shook. Back off, I whispered. My voice barely came out. He didn't react. Just floated there. Watching. That smile stretched tight. Then something flickered behind his eyes. A twitch. The car lights flicked back on. Kelsey. I yelled. Try it now. The engine turned over once, then again, then roared to life. Headlights cut through the dark. The figure didn't flinch. He just turned his head the tiniest degree and looked straight into the beam. The smile dropped. I didn't wait. Ran back to the passenger side, dove in, slammed the door. Go. She threw it in reverse so hard I thought the transmission would snap. We fishtailed, skidded, then slammed into drive and tore out of there. Gravel and dust flying behind us. I looked back once. He hadn't followed. Still standing in the parking lot, coat hanging motionless, one hand lifted as if to wave. And the lights behind him, the ones that had gone out, stayed dark. We didn't speak on the drive. Just kept checking the rearview mirror. I dropped her at a 24-hour diner 20 miles out. Bright lights. Other people. Told her to stay inside until morning. She didn't argue. When I got home, I moved fast, grabbed clothes, food, anything portable. Just before I left, I spotted it. A scrap of paper, dead center on my kitchen counter. 5 words in thick, uneven ink. The light won't save you. I didn't stop to think. Didn't look around. Just slammed the door and drove. We didn't go home after that. Met at the storage unit the next day and haven't left since. We've been in the bunker for 3 months now. We keep salt lines fresh around every door, every vent, every crack. I check them twice daily, sometimes 3 times. Twice now, we found footprints just outside the salt. Never closer. She took the side room, just a cot and a camping lamp. She doesn't talk much, but she hasn't left either. That tells me everything I need to know. We survive on canned food, bottled water, and paranoia. We've spread every file across the table. Every photo. Every report. We've memorized the maps. Red pins for sightings. Black pins for kills. One white pin for us. The only survivors. So far. We don't sleep well. She keeps her boots on. I sleep with the hunter's revolver under my pillow, not that it helped him any. And every night, just after midnight, the motion light above the steel hatch clicks on for half a second. Just once. Like a reminder. We don't talk about it. We just keep working. She scans case files. I trace old sightings, build timelines, cross-reference names. We pin everything to the wall. Hotel registries. Death reports. Power outages. Police calls that never made the news. We've started noticing patterns. He always moves before the 13-year cycle ends. Always changes names, changes cities. But the same face. The same grin.